Divorce and estates is, we wanted to get on here because some of our listeners are going through this or have gone through it or will go through it soon or thinking about going through it. Who knows? And
But have an opinion, but talk to you about it first. Talk to the agent about it first.
Because in a lot of ways, the attorney is the quarterback of the whole process. The house is just one piece. One of the reasons I love working with our estate attorney is because she stays in her lane and I stay in mine. Because I have had estate, because here's another challenge that realtors have with estates and divorces. Very, very opinionated attorneys.
We are the expert on this end of things within the whole entirety of the estate. Yeah. Let us do our thing, and then we will bring it over to you and say, here you go, all done.
You know me, and I know you. We don't mind work. Work's not the issue, but I like efficient work. Yeah. And I like respected work.
Welcome back to Moving Sucks.
I'm going to move this over a little bit. I have sun. Sun's messing with my exposure.
Oh my God, not again. I don't think we should ever record a podcast episode if it's sunny outside.
Or we could just have a normal studio with a basement where there's no light.
Here's to hoping.
Here's to hoping one day.
Somebody mark this down. Today is the day that we say we will have a podcast studio someday.
Like and subscribe. Get us on the map.
So we can get a podcast studio someday.
We'll get a media company to follow us. No. So what are we going to talk about today, Jen?
Oh, the really fun and lighthearted topic of estates and divorce. And for those who need a refresher on the inside terminology of estates, it's not really inside terminology, but it's when people die and what we do with their house.
Yep.
So death and divorce.
Death and divorce. So it's one of the 6 Ds of real estate. So someone came up with that because those are the people who really are motivated to move or most likely move, which is, I think it's, what is it? It's diapers, diamonds, divorce, death, delinquency, and something else. I can't remember. Maybe it's 5 Ds.
It is 5 Ds. We did an episode on this before, but I wasn't going to burst your bubble.
So in the end, though, divorce and estates is, we wanted to get on here because some of our listeners are going through this or have gone through it.
Or will go through it soon.
What's that?
Or will go through it soon.
Or will go through it soon or thinking about going through it. Who knows? And also just drop in the comments if anyone has been either an executor or administrator for an estate, or if they have tried to sell a house during
and divorce, why you won't do it again.
And why you won't do it again. But the main thing that we wanted to talk about is how these deals differ from your neighborhood open house, Bob and Sally realtor, neighborhood realtor feel. So just takes they can be very straightforward, but they're usually much more transactional, but there's a different skill set required. You have to understand the emotionality is different, right? There's not sentimentality in terms of oh, we brought our kids home to this house for the first time. There can be in the divorce, but usually it's override by stress of other things, of the unknown, or maybe just the angst in the relationship. And then, the estate side is, can be very, very transactional. Obviously, if it's you're selling the house you grew up in type deal, that can bring on some nostalgia. But understanding all these emotional buckets and then knowing how to deal with them, understanding what motivates people, what their true end goal is, understanding inheritance tax, understanding who the ideal buyer is for a property. We're going to talk all about that today. And we just went through one outside of Philly.
Which is what spurred this.
But this was one that we...
An estate one, to be clear.
I'm sorry. Yes, an estate. I have a divorce one coming up, or I have one that's settling next week that I won't go into detail on necessarily. I'll talk about it here, but I'm not going to go into too many details just for confidentiality. But yeah, they're different, a lot different. And this one we just did, this estate sale. Why don't you give a little bit of background on what it was, how they came to us, and what we ended up doing to solve their problems?
Well, as far as where they came from, they were in talks with the attorney to be able to settle the estate and get all of those affairs in order, as the progress typically does. Seth has positioned himself with this attorney as the one-stop shop. So, there was a house to offload with this family member who had passed away, and they are not even in state. They are out of state, needed to get this sold and taken care of while they do not live locally. So we're partnered with the attorney. We do plenty of deals with her. She's wonderful. And this isn't just an ordinary house. This was a fun hoarder house.
Yes, it was.
Straight out of an episode of Hoarders. I mean, this wasn't, like somebody who just did QVC a few too many times. There's climbing involved. There's wet surfaces, unknown wet surfaces.
Mushy stuff.
There's mushy stuff. There's videos of Seth climbing over top of these things and busting into some furniture.
Oh my God.
No. Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm not into koala bear. I love koala bears. I'm not into this one.
More jump scares.
Oh my God. She really emptied everything.
It was just yeah, completely.
Oh my God.
Oh, that's actually 2. Yeah, there's nothing of value in here. Oh wait, what's under there? Yeah, a lot of jewelry boxes. Oh yeah, it's all empty.
Oh my God
Yeah.
Almighty.
And then this. Yeah.
What? I don't
Oh,
know.
yeah.
It's
What these are?
Finger symbols.
Oh yeah.
You can put them on your fingers and you can go like that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, and think she's out of jewelry boxes.
I agree with you.
She
Yeah.
just emptied everything.
She did.
Yeah.
She did what we were trying to do. How dare she?
Mhm.
I think she beat us to it.
I mean, it was hers to do with, but gosh almighty,
Yeah.
looks like heck.
Oh, wait, you know what? There's an opening here.
What's a muscle into it?
No, I'm just having trouble getting some leverage here. There he goes.
Okay. Brilliant.
That was anticlimactic.
All right.
With consent. But yeah, this was not a send people in for showings kind of situation. And it was very, very, very overwhelming for the clients who were responsible for the estate. So in comes us. There was actually an agent that they had worked with before us, or went to, I guess, consulted with before us, that they had a terrible experience with.
Mhm.
Hesitant to talk. Typically, when people have a bad experience with another agent, sorry, that's my cat. Typically, when people have a bad experience with another agent, they are very hesitant to talk to another one because they kind of just take that as their experience with agents as a whole. It's not the first time I've come across that. But no, met her the first day, and we were like, we're not shoving papers in your face. We're just here to meet, see what your main concerns are, how you want to go about this. Here are some options. And then kind of just took it from there. So that's a little bit of the backstory. Did I miss anything?
No, I mean, in terms of how they came to us, and I would say though, that so we always do what's called a 2-step, or at least I always do. I always take docs with me, but I never really ask for people to sign on the first. I never ask people to sign on the first appointment because I think we're both at the point where like I'm interviewing the client as much as they're interviewing me, man. Like
It's a date. It's
like
we're just going to see if we vibe. Like, hey, are we a good match?
That's right.
Is this gonna work out between the two of us before committing?
That's right. And I'm thankful that we're there. And I mean, we've worked our ass off too, but it's nice to be able to go and just be able to say, okay, yeah, this isn't going to work. Like this, like I had a listing appointment in Bucks County outside of Philly, and the guy just rushed me through the whole thing. He thought he knew everything, and I walked out of there. I was like, if that guy never calls me again, that would be the best thing in the world. Like, I just don't want to work for people who are just completely unreasonable. But yeah, we went there, we met with her, and the difference I would say between divorces and executors, and and like these types of clients is, especially the executors, like it's kind of just dumped on their lap. And it's not, you don't have like the normal emotional makeup of somebody who wants to sell their house. Like somebody wants to sell their house or excited about what's next, or they're under a lot of distress. Divorces can fall in that, but an executor is kind of like
it's a pain in the
more
ass.
more of like a legal function. Now
Yeah,
there's a
but
lot of
also
stuff that
there's
goes along with it.
emotions because there's, it's the passing of a family member, depending on how close you were with this family member. I mean, it can be, you could like, they can go into it as one emotion of just like, this isn't my problem. I don't want to deal with this. Let's just be done with it. And then as it gets started, start feeling more and more like sentimental and kind of just oh my God, this actually is it. And having finality with everything. And then things start coming up. Then all of a sudden you want to discover everything that's in the house. And does this have sentimental value to me? And then there's all of that, which is totally understandable. I mean, there's a lot of emotions that go along with death and grieving. Could be starting with denial. You could go through all the 5 stages of grief all within the same transaction.
Yeah.
And that's normal. It's part of what we manage and what we help you through.
Yeah. And a lot of these estate houses, these estate deals, they can be distressed, meaning that they owe a lot of money on the house. They're racking up bills. So you have a lot of financial stress that goes on them. I have another deal in Philly that I'm going to be taking on with a colleague from our office. And it's another hoarder house, but it's different than the one we just described because there's just a ton of tax implications. So what happens a lot of times is older owners, they pay off their mortgage finally, and then they forget to pay their taxes. And especially if you get where cognitive decline starts to come in, they stop paying their electric, they stop paying their water, they don't pay their car lease, and there can be a whole treasure trove of liens and all kinds of debts that a good attorney will have to find out. So, there's that too. So it's like a different kind of financial pressure. Whereas like, Bob and Sally Smith want to buy a house. Yeah. Can they make it without a home sale contingency? Can they borrow money from mom and dad? Like that's not at all what this is. This is about trying to dispose of the property and make everyone whole in the end. So like agents, right, who are good at this, they understand the legal, aspects of things. They understand that like, there's going to be an escrow on the settlement sheet, meaning money set aside for inheritance tax. There could be a lot of other things outside of the real estate transaction, like Medicaid or just utilities, or they've got to, pay off some other kind of like medical debt. There's legal fees. There's all kinds of stuff that are involved. So, the premise of this is like you can't just call the realtor down the street who sells a bunch of houses in your neighborhood to handle your estate. I mean, you can, and they can be experienced, but I
would ask what their experience level is in it.
Yeah,
because I mean, while everything that you just listed is not that doesn't technically pertain to a house, and it's not going to come up when you go to sell the house, and you go under contract on it, you get an offer on it, and you're like, oh my gosh, look at everything that the estate's going to be getting to pay. And, maybe that's the person who gets to inherit the money from it. But then somebody who doesn't factor in all of those other things or ask the attorney of what else there is that needs to be paid, you think that you're walking away with all of this money and psych.
Yeah. Yeah. And a good attorney, and that's why a lot of attorneys, they'll have title offices, meaning they can do searches and they can go into public records and all that. The other, and I said this to you on Saturday, one of the reasons I love working with our estate attorney is because she stays in her lane and I stay in mine. Mm-hmm. Because I have had because here's another challenge that realtors have with estates and divorces. Very, very opinionated attorneys. Very, very, very opinionated attorneys. They're qualified to come into our lane, but we're not qualified to go. We don't have a law degree. So we can't like go and tell them, about divorce decrees. We can't go and tell them, tell clients about divorce decrees and probate and all that stuff. But a lot of them have no issue coming and horning in on our transaction. So
can you give an example?
I can definitely give an example. I sold a house in Bluebell where it was the family's attorney. So the attorney was best friends with the deceased. His son was made executor of the estate. He had to auction off all the contents of the house. And when it came to signing a contract for an agreement of sale, to listing the property, everything from pricing the house, how to present the house, what offer they should get, what was acceptable, what kind of contingencies they should expect in the 2022 market. This attorney had an opinion about it.
No.
And here's the thing: is that I was brought in,
but like have an opinion, but like talk to you about it first. Talk to the agent about it first. And because the client.
Because in a lot of ways, the attorney is the quarterback of the whole process. The house is just one piece.
I know, and that's great. But when it comes to the process of the house, like it's like subcontractors. It's like there's the person who oversees the entire project, but then, there's the electrician, there is the plumber. Like we are the subcontractor of, okay, but like we are the expert on this end of things within the whole entirety of the estate. Yeah. Let us do our thing, and then we will bring it over to you and say, here you go, all done.
Yeah. And it can definitely happen though, where an attorney just gets really involved. And then, so you've got like bombs being thrown into the transaction. Executor doesn't know who to believe. It's like, okay, I have a real estate professional here, but then also have an attorney. And listen, most attorneys are great. I'm not trying to throw attorneys under the bus, but you can have this in divorce and estate situations where, yeah, you got someone who's saying, no. Like you should be able to get more for that,
That
yeah,
is
so
like,
I had deal in Blue Ball.
That would give me twitches at night. Just
yeah.
Like our job is to set expectations, and like I said, it's fine for the attorney to have an opinion, but that is why we work as a team.
Yes,
and we all make sure we're on the same page and that the client is getting all of the same information. It's not that we're going to say, "I'm right, you're wrong, shut up."
Mm-hmm.
But maybe the attorney has a valid point. I'll listen to it, but let's not do that. Let's not give conflicting information to the same client, because that just stresses everybody out, and that just causes problems, and that just causes confusion.
Yeah. So that's why whenever I get involved in these situations, I always, after that first call, I said, I really need to talk, because I'm qualifying them too. I'm qualifying that attorney. Oh, yeah. Because if he's going to be a pain in the ass and it's like a $300,000 deal and I'm going to be like killing myself, because we're going to talk about next, like all the other stuff we offer when we do this stuff. And a good estate realtor and divorce realtor have these tools. Like, I'm not doing all this work to get like questioned every step of the way and getting crushed and having twice as many conversations I need to have. And me, and I know we don't mind work. Like, work's not the issue, but I like efficient work and I like respected work. So laying that groundwork with the attorney right away and building rapport and trust, because then what you have is the executor or the divorced couple in the crossline or crossfire.
We didn't even get to the point. We didn't even get to the fun part where we talk about, who the executors are, and that sometimes there's more than one voice chirping in the background.
They've got politics of the family, baby. Yeah.
Fortunately, I did one with, and this attorney, she's great. She was just like, yep, just keep me posted. Let me know. And anytime I had a question for her, very responsive, like, okay, thanks. She just needed to know the agreement of sale. And I said, here you go. She was great. But there was 6 cousins that were all had to unanimously agree on which one of them was going to be the executor, whatever. Well, there was like, they all had to agree that like that one person was going to be making the decisions and being in communication to handle everything. I got very lucky with the fact that this family could kind of care less. And they said, sure, let her take care of it. No problem. And like, they weren't up in arms about, I was like, sure to make sure to say, is there any one of them that is wildly money driven and is going to throw bombs into this at all? Fortunately not. They just said, I don't care. We'll get something at the end of the day. Cool. No problem. Just get it taken care of. But man, there are times where that is not the case. And all people see is just dollar signs. And they just make everything so much harder than it needs to be. And they're kind of insensitive about the whole entire fact that somebody just died. But
yeah. Well, and that happens just in a different way with divorces. The parents are, the parents of the wife or the parents of the husband think that that their kid was wronged. They start throwing bombs at me like, no, you shouldn't be able to do this. No, this is bullshit. You built that or you bought that. You should get
what could have
that.
been an amicable 50-50 split and just call it a day ends up being a tit for tat and resentful. Well, I should get this because I put this in, and well, I should do that because of this. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and listen, we are at a the attorneys and the realtors, like, we're used to navigating this thing. Executors do it once, maybe twice in their entire life, and they don't know how to deal with it. And they've got they got to go sit at Thanksgiving dinner, with their family. Like, I actually had a deal that was it was multiple. It was over 10 grandkids. The grandkids were given the house because all the kids were financially okay. So there was this nice big house. It was during COVID. And I had a deal where it was grandkids, and an uncle. So one of the kids of the deceased was still living in the house. And he wasn't really interested in, because he was living there, he wasn't really interested in being sold. So it was a little hard to get him moving. But the thing that was great is that the executor was very clearly defined. And that was the person who called me. And they really deferred a lot to her, which was great. Because if you get all those people, horning in, that can really be a problem. But my estate deal in Philly right now, 3 kids, my guy is the executor, and there's a sister who's just not really playing ball, and it's really delayed everything, and they've got bills piling up. And I said to my guy, I said, listen, there's going to be some point where you're going to need to take like the brother hat off and put your executor hat on and follow through with the legal mechanism that your parents assigned you. I said, if you can't find an amicable and a politically, copacetic situation here, like, you're going to have to just go and push it through. And I actually withdrew from the file. I said, I'm going to do you a favor here. I'm going to get out of your way, because she didn't trust me because it happened. I happened to be the realtor on the call. She was just trying to tell me, I didn't do anything wrong. It was just a matter of, I happened to be the person that I was the first realtor in. And so, the executor's sitting there saying, well, I trust Seth. And she's like, well, I don't trust him. And she's like, how about we use this person? He's like, I don't trust her. So I said to him, like, listen, why don't I just find you another realtor? And then I can just hang out in the back end. And it gives you all the cover you need. It saves me from having to get bombs thrown into my files, because it's not a very high price point. And so I will withdraw from a file if I know that the political dynamics in that family are just not going to work. Same thing with divorcing couples. Divorcing couples, they're just like at each other's throat, and they're going to use me as a piñata to kick the shit out of the other. And if one of those parties is not motivated to sell, like, I'm not doing it, man. Like, I don't want to do it. So there's a lot of political stuff happening. Okay. Now the other side of it is problem solving. So you said at the top of the episode that, like, my attorney knows me as a one-stop shop. Really, everybody in my orbit knows I'm a one-stop shop, and the whole team is a one-stop shop. We got a guy for everything, because we're always preparing properties, whether it's like Bob and Sally Smith buying selling a house. They bought a house. Like, we've got contractors, we've got, financial planners, we've got, we do have attorneys, we've got clean out guys. I got a mechanic. So, like, this past Saturday,
and we put in on every single one of those.
Yeah,
for the past couple weeks.
Yeah, and I have I handle the real estate for a very, very big waste management company family. So they're in Norristown, and they do all kinds of scrap metal, and they've got dumpsters. And then I have a friend who owns a dumpster franchise. Like, I've got people for everything. And like, not every realtor is going to have that because they've never had to find those resources and develop those relationships. So it's really not a straightforward thing. I mean, like, I had a mechanic at the house this weekend, jumping the car, putting a business insurance tag on it. So because the insurance has expired, putting a business insurance tag on it so we could get it from the house to the shop. Right now, as we speak, they're working on it. And then we're going to sell the house sell the car for the estate. Like, not a lot of realtors who would like have the resources to make that all happen. What they would do is they would say, well, you got to get rid of the car. So you go in the Kelly Blue Book and, you got to do this, you got to do that. But we really like to serve our clients the full.
We're going to talk about exactly what else you did while you were there on Saturday.
Why don't you tell everybody? I've just dumped like 10 minutes of shit on everybody. Why don't you tell everybody what I did?
Oh, so
or how it all went down. Talk about how it all went down.
This is Friday. No, I mean, I don't have to go bore people with the full backstory, but I had said at the beginning, actually, just touched on it. But the clients, they were coming down from where they live, and we got this offer on it. And it could be, there's all sorts of inner workings of we had things scheduled for the dumpster to come and for a clean out crew to come. The way this worked out, we're under contract. I'm not going to say full details for confidentiality. Whatever the case, we needed to make some decisions and kind of help them out with finding something in this house that they wanted to find. So they said, I think it's in this locked credenza, but we don't know if we're going to be able to get to it physically through the mess. There goes Seth, popping over to Home Depot, gets a crowbar and a hammer, climbing over mountains of God knows what, breaks into this credenza with permission and finds these stamp books, the stamp collection that they wanted. That's the one thing they wanted out of the house. Seth found a whole bunch of them. We were on a video call for this, by the way. I did want to be there.
I think our video editor is going to have to put some B-roll in the feed.
Yep.
While you're describing this, for sure.
Yep. I have it. I recorded some of this. And not just that. They were also wondering, is there a jewelry box there? Just Seth went through all 15 jewelry boxes that were in the room, visible. Man, I wish I was there. I wanted to physically be there.
Why I did that though too is I did it on video wasn't because I was looking for glory. It was because I wanted them to see firsthand what I was seeing.
Well, and it was their big thing too. We were on the phone with them beforehand, and there was a big piece of this. And what I was asking some questions, and I eventually got to the point. I said, out of curiosity, what do you hope to get from going through the house? Because there's this whole big thing with like accessibility and being able to get in safely. But it was going to come at a cost because it's going to cost to clear things out to get them in there. And they said, and it came down to it was for closure. And that's when we kind of piped up and we're like, what if we can just go through on video while you're home? And would that give you closure for us to be able to go through for you on camera and look in every place that you wanted to see? And they said, yep. So I said, all right, I'll head over there in about 30 minutes. And I'm like, I can't get there in 30 minutes, but I want in on this. So we all got on a call 30 minutes later and gave them closure and got their stamp collection.
But the whole reason this all came about is because we were going to clean the whole house out and put it on the open market, but we also found a private buyer and got them an offer. And then it was like, well, wait, we have this offer waiting for us. Like, how much do we really want to go through this process? Because there is, and I was there yesterday or on Saturday with the executor and her mother. And I said, I don't think you understand, like, cleaning out a house like that. There is so much emotional load that you would have to, because what happens in hoarder homes is that obviously nothing's organized, but I was like, you're going to find things sentimental from the past that's just thrown on the ground and everything like that. I said, it is just going to be I was like, I probably would get emotional. I don't even live here. I don't even know who any of these people are, but like just seeing the extent of the disease that hoarding presents, I was like, it is going to be a very, very emotional thing. And I was like, if I can go over there and an hour and a half later, I can solve it by putting on a mask, grabbing a crowbar and a hammer and giving them closure, like fine, you know.
Sure.
And listen, when I called the clean out guy and I said, listen, we don't need your, and this was the day before he was supposed to come. He's like, he was like, man, I ain't even mad about that. He's like, I'm not even mad. He's like, I would have been over there for a week, you know. He's like going through all that shit, you know, and he's a clean out guy. But he realized after talking to the executors, they weren't up for it. The executor knew they weren't up for it. And we were able to get them what they needed and get out. So, you know, again, you're like, you know, your neighborhood, you know, open house realtor is probably not going to run over there and do it. They probably been like, oh, no, I'll send my son or I'll send someone else. And I was just like, no, I'm going to go over there and get it done. So that's great. And then like divorces are the same way, just different, you know, in terms of the emotionality. And like 2 weeks ago, there's a really, really hard divorce I'm dealing with right now. And, you know, I found a private deal for that as well. And he was touring the buyers and their parents, the house, and they were all upstairs. And then I was standing at the bottom of the stairs and I heard Mr. Seller, who's getting divorced, he was like sniffing, and he was starting to cry. And he's a big, like burly bearded guy. Like he's a tough guy. You know, he's a contractor. Like I think he does maintenance. So he's like he can turn
Blue collar guy.
Yeah, he can turn wrenches. And in the end, I just said to him, like, come on down. You know, and he's like, I'm so sorry. I was like, dude, you don't have to apologize for a thing. I said, this is a very emotionally distressing thing for you. And, you know, so there's that as well, like where you have a different kind of emotionality where like the house is literally being like, he feels like the house is just being sold out from underneath him. Because when you take one person away, you just don't have the income to support the property. So who's that?
This is Little.
If you're watching on YouTube, we have a feline member of the team, and is Little. And Little,
he's the third co-host. He has to be involved.
He's always very curious about what his mom Jen is doing. So
always.
So, but no, so I mean, we can wrap it up or whatever. But I think the moral of the story is that if you have the unfortunate situation of a divorce, someone dies and you are assigned, or your family is going through an estate situation, you can't, like, you really need to qualify. It's a different bucket.
I mean, also something we didn't even touch on that's also important to mention is if you find out who your parents set as the executor, or have they even set up their will and set up, put everything into legal motion of what happens after they pass away and what the plan is for the house. Because if that is all squared away and legally bound and already tied up with a nice pretty bow, once they pass, it makes everybody's life a lot easier. If it's not, if things go into probate, takes a lot longer, can get a little more complicated if there is no explicit direction of what is to happen after they pass. So it's worth having a conversation with parents or whoever your elder members are to say, hey, so not to be morbid or anything, but like, who's in charge of everything after you pass away, and what's the plan for this? Because it's the stuff people don't like talking about, but it's important. I would like to know if I'm going to be responsible for any of that, because I don't want it to be a surprise that somebody passes and it's like, oh, by the way, here's everything you have to deal with. And it's like, huh?
Yeah. And the other thing between that conversation and death is someone who's declining, like mentally. So if you, so what'll happen is, like, so I'm dealing with another one over in Norristown, where it is the parents are in their 90s and they're still alive, but one of them, it's questionable how much they understand about, like, you know, are they competent to sign documentation? Do they understand how it all work? And if you get to a situation like that, the lawyer literally will give a cognitive test.
Like, I went through that in December, November, December.
Yeah, and like
it got close. It was getting iffy. That's why we were like, we need to make sure this gets done and signed, and she's still coherent.
That's right. And so if the attorney, their law degree or their law license requires that if they cannot in good conscience and legally have someone who they've deemed to be not of sound mind to sign documents. So if that becomes the case, then you have to apply for guardianship potentially, which is a whole other thing. It takes forever. But yes, if you have a power of attorney and a medical power of attorney in place, and when you do a will, you usually will assign those things. Usually it is for either or when you're like our age. But in the event of both spouses' demise, there should be a backup, and sometimes that can just be like a trustee, can be someone else. But like, yeah, there's like a whole other part of it where if the legal documents are not set up correctly, there's all kinds of shit that can happen. So anyone out there who's got any of these situations, whether they've gone through it, think they might go through it, they're in the middle of it, just leave a comment. Tell us what's happening. I think it's a really not a well-discussed part of real estate at all. It's a lot, real estate's very showy. We've talked about in other episodes why that is, like with Lamborghinis and palm trees and shit like that. But like, this is the nitty gritty. And when you see people really struggling with these, it's a lot of times that there's a lot of emotionality, but also, yeah, like you said, they just haven't, there's so much uncertainty because the legal mechanism isn't actually clear. So
I love when people think our job is just showing pretty houses and just writing up one single offer and then just celebrating at a settlement table.
Yeah. And I don't.
The in between, the everything around it is so much bigger and more involved than people ever even start to consider. But that's why we made this podcast, so that people can understand more about real estate.
We're the only industry that like celebrates our wins so outwardly. Like is it? It's like a surgeon going to be like, man, place that heart in 3 hours. Like everyone, no other business takes as many curtain calls as this industry. And I think that diminishes us a little bit. And I think that definitely affects like the way that dynamic we were talking about with the attorneys. Attorneys are like, realtors are like, whatever. Like they're not solving big legal problems like I am. But I think also it lends itself to our reputation with the consumer. Although good realtors like us, like we have great reputations with the consumer and people really lean on us and all that. But we can talk about, I think we've talked about that on the pod about like why we think that is, but it would be interesting to know like
why we're the least trusted industry.
Yeah. But just like, why do you think people don't respect agents?
Oh, that's a good next topic.
It is, but it's also a great place for people to leave comments. I know I've been whoring out the comments down below, but I would love to know, like, what is your true opinion of a realtor and the profession? I like taking it a next step. It's like, why do you feel that way? Like, what is the thing that has made you feel like they're not, whether they're indispensable and valuable or if they're just like, overpaid, pretty faces.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I can just see.
I get a little scared of the comment section if people start popping off. I won't take it personally because chances are if you're commenting, you don't know who I am personally and how I work. And I know that I just like to solve people's problems and I just like to help and that I know that I'm good at what I do. So I'm not going to let any comments get to me. It's fine.
Yeah. So, all right, well, let's leave it there. And I can already see you gearing up. The gears in your brain are already churning about wanting to talk about that. And
I guess that's what we're going to do next.
And defending your realtor honor over there.
I've also got little just happy as could be on my lap right now. So
okay, well then I'll let you get to that, Jen.
Yeah. Well, right. I can't move, so I'm stuck here forever.
All right, sounds good.
All right. Catch you on the next one.